How many of you will be coming on Wednesday for the training as well? Very good. So that will be a more in-depth look at some of the stuff. So now we'll get a good overview on how the product works on a pretty high level, but we'll try to cover as much of the tool as possible. And then tomorrow we'll be focusing on certain topics, make a deep dive based on what you guys want to hear then. Is that fair? All right. I was supposed to have some slides here as well. So I've never done this, but apparently you can put a PowerPoint slideshow in like this kind of a minimized window and still get the fancy animation stuff and everything. So let's try that. All right, everybody here? Everybody can hear me? All right. So I'm Jussi from Ekahau. Been at Ekahau since 2002. Pretty much. Went somewhere else for a while. Now I'm back because just couldn't stay away from Wi-Fi. We've been making these tools since like 2002. When I joined Ekahau, we started kind of thinking about site survey tools. There wasn't any, and people were actually using our location engine calibration tool for site survey purposes because there was no site survey tool out at that time. So we thought, hey, this could actually be a business opportunity, and we made one. And it sucked, and we failed business-wise, and we almost shut down the entire business. But right at that point, people started like talking about Wi-Fi design and deployment and everything, and the lightweight APs came up, and Wi-Fi really started booming. So we started to get a lot of customers, or not a lot, but enough to justify the business. So 12 years later, here we are. Yeah. How about we look at what we've been doing for the last 12 years? How's that? All right, so what we're going to do is look at a little bit of everything. Planning, on-site surveys, and analysis. If you need additional training, so we're going to stay tomorrow evening here as well for a few hours to be looking at more in depth on some of this stuff. And then there's the Ekahau Certified Survey Engineer, ECSC training. Highly recommend that for you guys who are, really working with the tool and really utilizing it as a, whether you're a network owner or a systems consultant or whoever, if you do use the tool more than, once a year, I would highly recommend this. We do have excellent trainers here. Well, namely, well, Keith will probably share it with you, but so Keith will be doing a lot of the trainings moving forward for Ekahau Site Survey, so I'm really, really excited about that, of course. So 3-day training, including a half-day certification test is what I'm talking about. So how many here have used our tool? Good. How many here have used the tool in the recent year or so? Less, but still quite many. Very good, very good. But still not that many active users, so which is good, which is good. So we'll tailor the presentation accordingly. So, starting with the very basics. What do you need to run the tool on? What kind of laptop should I get? Is my current laptop good enough? Well, probably it is. So Macs are fine as long as you run Boot Camp or whatever on it. So if it runs Windows and it's Mac, it's good. You would need a supported adapter. It's bundled. It's in your bag. If it's not, come see me after. Also, when you purchase the tool, you get a supported adapter with the purchase, an Ekahau adapter. So what is enough RAM? I know John touched this on their side earlier, and for us, it's like 2 gig is pretty much, a minimum to really do production work. Windows eats up quite a bit anyway. But the tool does utilize to have 4, 8, 16 gig. It will be happy to use it, but anything more than 8 would be like for those huge like stadium-wide deployments and all that kind of stuff. I have 4 gigs on my computer, And it works well, except when you open up a humongous stadium with like 1,000 max audible in every location. Then it starts to trouble me a bit. So I would upgrade, but hey, Lenovo, come on, no memory upgrades available. Anyways, SSD. Do you use SSD drive when you're doing the surveys? Good. So definitely that's a requirement. So no mechanical drives. Otherwise, you will run into problems when saving the project file or just using the plain tool, because Windows is swapping with a hard drive all the time anyway. So one bad step and blue screen. Convertible laptops. How many has Windows 8 tablet? Yeah, Blake, obviously, huh? Anybody else? A few. Windows 8 convertibles, meaning a tablet that you can attach to a laptop that runs Windows 8. Nobody. All good to know. I do have one from Lenovo. I love it. It's my only computer. It's powerful enough to run everything. It's this one here. So you just detach the tablet and it's a fully blown tablet. You put it back, it's a fully blown Windows PC. So I do recommend that for site surveys, and I just showed it to a customer a couple of days ago, and they were sold. They asked, what is our mobile strategy? I took the tablet part out and said, here it is, and he was convinced. Try them. Anybody installed the tool already? A few of you? Good. So you can follow on as we go if you want. I'm not gonna, or an hour is not enough for like, get everybody on board, but please do follow along. There's example projects in the site survey folder already, or in documents, my survey projects, so you can open them. I have one open right here. So, it doesn't stay automatically on top. So what do you do first with the Ekahau site survey? So you fire it up. Depending on whether you're doing planning or surveying, you focus on different things, but the same user interface, the same application runs both the planner and the survey part. They're completely integrated. So for example, analysis happens exactly similarly between both, and you can combine the prediction stuff with the survey stuff as much as you want. So you can do a survey, then start dropping in simulated APs, everything, it's a seamless thing in a sense. So how about we do planning first? You bring in a map, and for the maps, how many uses something else than Ekahau for site surveys? There you go. Who doesn't use site survey tools at all, really, for their work? Or okay, good. So mostly you use something else than Ekahau, but you know that when you're bringing the maps, you want to keep them black and white, pretty crisp, high quality, but let's say below insane amounts of pixels. CAD drawings are okay. You can bring in DXF, DWG, stuff like that. SVG, vector graphics, if you get those are fine as well. Yeah? You need to remove the CAD layers before you move them into the tool, for now. Good question. I wish I got $1 every time I hear the CAD layer question. So we need to do something about it, and we will. All right, but if you bring in a CAD drawing, it just brings in it as a background map for now. And here's what it kind of looks like. Let me take out the stuff. Okay, and this one out as well. So once you brought in the map, if we look at this chronologically, when you're deploying a Wi-Fi or designing a Wi-Fi network, you probably need to figure out the requirements for the network next, or first. So you would go to project, and Blake, this has changed actually. So the menu structure is now different than even from your beta version, so pay attention here. So you look like you're falling asleep there, man. So I'm starting to have a lot of haters. Like, it's first Stony, now Blake. Yeah, guys, you're gonna attack me. All right, so you go to project coverage requirements, and kind of tell the tool what you're going to do with the network. So this is not mandatory, but I would recommend it doing it at some point. Why not do it when you're figuring out the network anyway, so at the very beginning. So let's say I'm going to do Vocera, because we want to be vendor agnostic here, and there's no voice phone providers, at least much here. Ascom is here, but I don't have your profiles here, guys. So we need to do something about that. We're going to deploy for Vocera VoIP, and then the tool kind of populates these requirements out of it. All right, it will be used later, so we'll get back to that. And then if we're doing high or even medium high capacity, we do put some numbers here, like how many laptops am I going to have, how many smartphones, and things like that. So we've talked about this high density stuff here all the time, or throughout the whole conference. And our approach to this is that we actually put in the number of devices and the types of devices, but what's relevant in addition to this? I mean, just the type of device and the number, is that enough? Applications maybe, yeah? So what does it mean if I put in a laptop or a smartphone or whatever? What applications are running it? Well, you can actually define that during an average 8-hour workday, on an average laptop, this is the kind of usage pattern that I'm going to have on this device. So I'm going to have 1 hour of VoIP calls, and I'm going to have, my email client will be on all the time, and I will pretty much be using a chat application all the time. And all this is then taken into account when we actually, Timo is here. Timo, raise your hand. Timo is responsible for the whole capacity planning thingy. So it's pretty hardcore, actually. It calculates, it creates all of these devices into the network virtually, and then creates all of the packets they are transmitting, and starts figuring out whether you have enough capacity. And then when you're designing a network with the auto planner, which places the APs, the thing actually automatically, it looks at the capacity, how much packets are being transmitted, and then starts, moving the APs closer to one another if needed, and stuff like that. I'll show it to you later, but it's pretty sophisticated. Of course, you don't need to go to this much detail. You don't need to do the capacity stuff if you're not see need for it, but I would. Peak hour usage. This we also, I think we touched a bit. So in addition to what applications, what devices, stuff like that, it's probably relevant to indicate that after lunch, the people will go crazy with YouTube when they have food coma, and they just want to sit there and do more stuff with the network. So you can say, yeah, during my peak hours, the network traffic actually doubles, for example. Yes? Yes?
I didn't really catch the swing before. Can you make your own complete from ground up? So for instance, if you're in a school scenario and you know a specific educational app that's going to push this and that, can you then kind of tweak this?
Yes.
I want to have like 20 students in each platform, and they're going to go closely to this, and then see like that.
Good question. So it was about, can I tweak these profiles and stuff like that, right?
Yeah, but not the profiles you have there. Like you do features of things like if I do like a Wireshark when they the students start out a special educational app that it grabs, I can see okay, it moves 10 megs of data, a lot of UDP, what have you, then put it in there.
Mm-hmm.
Would that be possible?
Yeah, certainly. You can actually find out from us or from a configuration file what each of these means actually in terms of data being transmitted, and you can add your own stuff there. And if you have common use case scenarios, we would be happy to add those to the tool, and then you can just pick what you told us to pick. So. And that same thing works for the antennas and stuff like that. So if you don't see your wall materials, antennas, your favorite APs, just let us know and give us a few weeks. Our release cycle is usually like 3 weeks a month, and then those will be added there. Okay, but that's kind of how you indicate your capacity needs. Any questions? Not yet. Just show us what it does with that, right? Well, let's do that. For the scale, this is again, Keith is a master in teaching this. So for indicating the scale, every tool has this. You draw the ruler and then you put in the scale. But don't do a doorway, like Keith said. Do something longer if possible, like a longest wall you can find, and use, if you have a laser measurement thingy, that's good. If the scale is already there on the map, that's even better. All right, so you just basically mark it, punch in the numbers, and go. And then you draw the walls. So for us, there's a selection of walls. You just select the wall and then start drawing. You left click, and right click to end the drawing. External mouse, highly recommended. If you, so by default, the tool actually draws 15-degree angles. If you want to free it, you hit Control, and then it free forms the walls. But that's details. So what I've done is now I've pre-drawn the walls here for the sake of planning. Of course, for the surveys, no need to draw the walls. So this is just for the tool, for the simulation purposes, to understand the RF environment. So what I like to do is, for example, this is an office building with a lot of drywall. So I also draw the drywalls over the doors, for example. I do the main walls, and then I do separately the elevator shafts with the elevator shaft material, and I do the fire escape staircases with a brick wall, because that's, you know, gets you close enough. All right, so that's kind of how you define the environment. Map, scale, walls. Don't overdo the walls. Don't be overly accurate about it. Don't do furniture and stuff. The plan will never be, you know, infinitely accurate anyway. It will get you to that, you know, 90–95% accuracy, and then, you know, you just leave some room for additional APs after. The tool is three-dimensional, and by three-dimensional, I don't just mean floor to floor. It's actually a fully three-dimensional algorithm. So you can place APs up high. You can do tilt the antennas on the side, but you can also do down tilt, up tilt, and it's completely three-dimensional how it calculates it. I can show it to you in a second. Let's look at the 3D floor to floor first. So that works by placing 3 alignment points per floor. What I've done is I brought 3 floor plans here, 1, 2, and 3, and that happens just, you know, hit the plus sign or go to map, add map. 1 map per 1 floor is usually a good thing, and for us, I would do 1 building at a time, whether simulation projects or survey projects. Even if it's a 20-story building, that's fine. So just bring all the maps into 1 project. We treat 1 project as just 1 file at the end. We compress the data quite heavily, and that's how it works. So 1 project, 1 building, multiple maps. Okay, now I have floors 1, 2, and 3. They are of different shapes and sizes, so the tool needs to understand how are they stacked on top of one another, because the maps may be rotated and twisted and skewed and whatnot. So put 3 alignment points per floor. And what are good places for these? Since these need to be in the same location on every floor, you put them on elevator shafts or staircases, things that you can identify are in the same place on each floor. So what I've done is I've put them, I have 3 staircases here. I've put it to the bottom right corner, each point to the bottom right corner of the staircase. And the order does matter. So where you place the first one, you place the first one also on the next floor. Right? So that's how the system knows how they are stacked on top of one another, except it doesn't know the floor order or the material between the floors. And that's why we have the building view. So here you just put the height of the floor here, and then the material between the floors here, and the floor order here by just selecting which map is at the bottom, which map is the second one, the third one, and so on. So it's based on correlating map names with the order of the floor. So there we have a 3-dimensional model. And there is a 3D status thingy here that kind of tries to instruct you all the time. Are you okay? Do you still need to move your floor alignment points? Do you need to add you know, floors to the building, or what you need to do? So it kind of guides you through this a bit awkward process. All right? So I promised you it's a fully 3-dimensional planner, and you know, I wouldn't believe me. I'm a vendor. So let's see if that actually works. Make this floor 30, what's a high floor? 60 feet, how's that? It's not high? All right, let's say 60 feet. Then let's place a super simple one AP there. We're just gonna put a custom AP with a highly directional antenna, how's that? So an HP 14 dBi. I wonder if anybody has ever used this antenna, but we'll be the first ones. All right, so we can see, yeah, sure, it's directional. Let me take out the wall so that we can actually see this stuff better and maybe lose the contours. So yeah, sure, it's directional. Even if there's walls and stuff, we can see the directionality. Yeah, and turn it. Yeah, still directional. All right, so let's raise the AP a bit. We go to the AP list. We go edit. This is the height of the AP. Where do we raise it? 50 feet? Whoops, so much for the coverage. A little less, 30. And bear in mind, we are looking at neg 75 or better. Neg 75 or better here in the bottom right. All right, so that makes sense, right? We raise the AP so the lobe doesn't quite reach the... Timo, we are calculating at 1 meter height, right? So yeah, the client receiver is expected to be at 1 meter height. We debated on the plane whether, you know, or at the airport, whether this should be configurable or not, but we haven't seen a need for it yet. Okay, so we probably, this AP being hung so high, we probably want to tilt it down, right? So let's just, this is the side lobe of the, like a side view of the lobe of the antenna. So we just drag it down. Here we go. And you can see when I put it all the way down, yeah, sure. And I could even tilt it the other way. So that's kind of, that's the idea of the three-dimensional planner. If I tilt it straight up, the back lobe will still affect. Henry from Apple. Yes, it's taken into account the walls. I just hid them, but yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So if I move this close to the elevator shaft, so here's an elevator shaft right to the north of this AP, and yeah, it blocks the signals. And even if we point it down, yeah, it keeps blocking the signals because the AP is high, the elevator shaft goes all the way. Makes sense, right?
How does it work out in coverage?
In John's product, we can call it John's product. Oh.
My knowledge is it uses a modified free space path loss. It uses free space path loss for a modified loss. So that's been one of my issues with predictive because, you know, we'll predictive and then we'll do the verification survey and then way off, and that's of course totally down to receive sensitivity on the survey client. What is this using to work out the coverage? And is there any way to you know, calibrate it or adjust it?
Yeah, there is. We kind of now we assume a pretty good client like our NIC, but you can change the client behavior from here. So you can select, for example, Cisco AB CB21 or whichever adapter, and since Scott, you being an expert user, maybe you can go into the conf files and make your own adapter and make like normalization, signal strength adjustment values even for that. So you can do that for sure. Did I answer your question? Maybe not, maybe. Oh.
Yeah, and what I see it, to me it looked like, I wasn't sure, but when I looked, it looked like it was using a very old adapter that had poor receive sensitivity, and so where I see that is guys really have little RF knowledge, and they're putting in, even, you know, they put in more APs than is needed a lot of the time, and then it's even worse than that, because if your weakest client happens to be not too bad in that deployment, you know, it's even worse off because the predictive is showing it.
But if this is showing AP transmission, I mean, how does a different client receive sensitivity
impact with the heat transmissions. Well, the client sees the VPN, right?
Exactly, exactly. So it's about the client antenna implementation. Yeah. Okay, guys, can we take this offline? Because this is more than for 90% here. It's probably not that critical of an issue. But Scott, yeah. Very good. Very good. Mm-hmm. Oh, is which exportable? Yeah. Yeah, it's called copy and paste files. that's the only thing you can do. Yeah. Okay, yeah, Command C, Command V. All right. So that's really how you use it. And what I showed you yesterday was Timo's latest thing was the height of the obstacles. So in a future release, you will be able to kind of say this area is filled with cubicles that are 1.5 meters high or whatever that is in feet. Or you can say this warehouse shelving is 8 feet, although the ceiling is all the way up to 20. And it just makes the prediction a bit more accurate for those different kind of scenarios, and also allows that city block type of a planning I showed yesterday. Okay, so that's manual planning, and there's a few APs or a few hundred APs here in the AP list. So we've modeled them obviously in 3D based on the manufacturer specs, which are always infinitely correct. Correct? Yes. Well, no, they really are. So that works well, and we do appreciate our relationship with the vendors because they keep sending us, every time they release something, they send us the stuff right away. So if the AP of your choosing is not here, just let us know and we'll add it there in a few minutes. But it will take a few weeks to release. So what is the most neutral AP we can find here that we can safely use? There's nobody from Landcom here, so maybe we can use Landcom. All right, so obviously the manual planning is just placing APs around the map, and it will calculate the coverage and all that kind of fun stuff. You can, of course, show signal strength for my AP, so my network, and this is what John was talking about in his presentation as well. This is a dilemma, so I don't think anybody has perfectly cracked the nut yet, but so this is signal strength for my APs, this is signal strength for selected APs, so I can just select either radios or APs from the map. Let me just hide the walls. And see coverage for one or more APs, and as you can see, the coverage is never, of course, that circular. So if I move this next to an elevator shaft and a staircase, you can see that, yeah, obviously they do absorb a lot. And then multi-floor stuff. Or is it? Oh, yeah. Multi-floor stuff, it works unless the guy who manages the products F's up the plan. So I actually made a 60 feet high floor on the floor 1. So no wonder I was seeing nothing on floor 2. Makes sense. So let's put it back to, what was it, 8.2 feet. Here we go. So now we can see a bit more. Right, makes sense. So it is a 3-dimensional planner. Right now it's predicting plus minus 1 floor, but you can also, you can configure it here from the options as well. As you can everything like how far it predicts from the survey route, and all the pretty colors can be adjusted here, and all that fun stuff to make your reports look exactly like the customer wants. Can you angle the floor? That's the first question ever. Everybody asks, can you draw holes in the floor? But angle the floor.
Slow extend the existing stadium, just so everybody can see the field. It's a funny current. Other people look at it. They do actually, yeah.
To me, honestly, I would need to be pretty creative to try to sell you this tool for stadium planning. I'm not trying to sell anything here anyway, but for stadium planning, I would say either just go on site or use these really high-end stuff like Wireless Valley, maybe. Motorola, what is it now? It's gone, okay, yeah. Yeah, of course I recommended it because it doesn't exist anymore. Yeah, but I don't think there's a really good way to plan for stadiums.
You can approximate it. You can achieve the result by flattening.
Yeah. Timo, can we do a tilting floor thing? Yeah, he always says, I already did the algorithm, now it's up to the UI guys. And we've been like hiring more and more UI guys, and this comes up with more and more stuff on the math side, and we just can't keep up. Man. Well, anyways, where were we? So that's kind of how the manual planning works. For the then the question is, well, can't the computer compute the locations just like it does in the other products? Yeah, sure. So what you just need to do is indicate where you want the coverage. So for us, it's this polygonal tool that says, yeah. So place one or more of these areas where you say, yeah, I probably want coverage here. And then it also limits down the coverage to that area for your report if you wanna, not show the signal leakage outside, because customer will get like, oh, it's leaking outside to the parking lot. Anyways, so what I did, I pressed the button with the APs and the magic wand. At least that's what it tries to look like. I think that was photoshopped by yours truly. Anyways, so the auto planner just asks you a few basic questions, like, again, what do you want to deploy for? Well, obviously voice. Do you want to consider capacity there as well? And then what kind of APs are you going to put in there? So, here's the vendor neutral choice, generic 802.11n/AC. So we go with that. Then it asks 2.4 or 5, and it's usually, you do a plan for 5, then you bring it to the customer and they say, yeah, that's not gonna work, and then you do one for 2.4 and they say, okay, that looks better. Except until they fire up the network and they realize there's holes in the 5 gig coverage. Then there's a few advanced settings like the TX power of the APs, how wide channels you want to use, what kind of channel separation, single channel, no, not a problemo. All right, so that's the auto planner. You hit create plan, and it takes a while, and then places a few APs for you. Any questions at this point as we wait for the planner to finish? Excellent question. Nigel, right? Let's see about the Cochannel interference. So so it plays me a fairly dense network of APs. I did have a few clients and pretty tight, especially the signal strength and overlap requirements on the Vocera specs are pretty darn high. So that's why it kind of places, quite a dense network of APs, of course. So where do I show channel overlap? Here we go. So this is what you're asking for, no channel overlap here, then here we start having some, and so on. And this is like based on a threshold, like what do we consider harmful channel overlap? And there was an excellent presentation about the 4 dBi stuff already by, was it Matthew? Yeah, for the 1 dBi raise and all that. But so the channel overlap kind of tells you which APs are overlapping, where do you have problems, where do you not have problems. And that's based off of the setting here. So I've said that only neg 80 or worse, or neg 80 or better is considered channel overlap for me. Does that make sense? Does that answer your question? Yeah, in this area, correct. So it's, these 1 and 1 are pretty close, but I do have 1, 6, 11. So how do I improve it? Either 4-channel plan. Hey.
1 and 1 don't go next to each other.
This is true, but what do they say in the Matrix? Sometimes it is the sound of inevitability, Mr. Anderson. All right. So yeah, we'll take also this. All the tough questions will be taken offline. So let's talk about the placement. I'll save this file and then we can come back to it after the session. The question was about beamforming, right?
And more generally, processing gain at one side over the other, so the AP is more capable. If you have a single stream client and multi-stream AP, so I'm getting MRC in the uplink,
Yep.
right, and I'm getting beamforming in the downlink, so that really complexifies.
Transmit, receive, beamforming, all of that stuff. Yes, we have thought about it a lot, but then I usually go with the margin answer at this point because the situation is so chaotic right now that I don't see value in doing anything about it right now, to be honest. It would be good if we had all the possible scenarios supported, but that would also be client dependent, AP dependent, and still I would rather just use what you get from beamforming as an additional margin, and then maybe you can put your limits a bit lower to accommodate for the beamforming what you get with the beamforming, and that's, for example, what your competitor recommends. As you've read their guidelines, so you know how.
I haven't actually, and I didn't think about it really until just now. That sounds like the logical response.
And in the future, yeah, we are, once the things like stabilize in the market and we start seeing like real patterns and generalized ways of doing stuff.
Using their coverage by depending on these features.
Yeah, and yeah, it makes a difference if you have beamforming and with legacy clients, they work differently from.
I guess what would be helpful is in terms of the data rate predictions, the capacity predictions, but there might be some specific back
Yeah.
in terms of coverage.
Certainly. So right now we assume beamforming not used. So it's on the safe side in a way. So you might get more than what you see here, but shouldn't get less. So capacity, speaking of that, so we were looking at signal strength, channel overlap. Then you could look at things like interference and how much overlap do I have and stuff like that. But let's look at the capacity stuff because that's pretty new. So now the tool can start calculating all the clients, their applications, starts putting out the packets to the air, and then we can start seeing, let's make this, for example, on 2.4. If we only had 2.4, how would the clients associate to 2.4? Or we can, of course, the normal scenario is 2.4 and 5, both are used. So what is the distribution of clients between the APs? So this AP here, 8 clients associated, 5 on 2.4, and 3 on 5. So what I would use this for is if there's enormous red areas, for example, here, or like a huge difference between the associations between one AP and the other, then it's unbalanced, and then you want to do something about it. The first thing you would look at when considering capacity is capacity health. So does the network support all those clients that we created here? So right now everything is green, so seems to work. So actually out of these 500 clients, only a couple of hundred are on this map, and it's a pretty dense AP network with high-end APs. So yeah, makes sense, they are supported. But as you can see there's different shades of red here. So if I keep adding clients and adding clients, at some point one of these red things will start popping up. Whether it's overall capacity exceeded, too many clients per AP in terms of associations. And what was your guideline for maximum number of associations per AP, Chuck? 150 per radio. I think our Okay, thank you. And right now, I think in our tool, what do we have? Like a couple of hundred associations per radio is the... All right, don't remember. Why it's not turning them off?
Yeah, like you had that Cochannel Interference problem for the few areas there. Why is it not just turning off the 2-port radio?
Good question. Well, the tool itself is incapable of turning off radios, but we can, I see what you're saying, and that's a good point. So let's simulate what would happen if we did that. How's that? So your question is actually valid. So it should look at, okay, there's some overlap here, so maybe we should move them further apart or something like that. But yeah. That's actually an interesting suggestion. But of course, even though there was channel overlap, the question could be, was it that harmful, right? Because still the capacity requirements were met, the coverage requirements were met. So the network is functional, it's working, even though there is a little bit of channel overlap.
I wouldn't call that Cochannel working, especially if you're on channel 1 in that area.
Yeah, true. All right, so let's see if it makes an impact actually. Select all APs and then we start unchecking those radios. So what were we looking at? Channel overlap? So you're saying maybe we disable this radio on channel 1? Maybe the problem is not on channel 1 actually. It's on channel 52. So yeah, this is an easy one to solve. Apparently, no. Yeah. So put it on 64. There we go. So it actually wasn't a 2.4 problem, but yeah. So what is the lesson? No channel optimization algorithm is perfect, right? Sorry? Certainly. The question of sense of scale for like how far the APs are, I think they're pretty close to one another. So it's like 43 feet, something like that. Yeah. So there we start seeing actually more. So it showed actually the best case. Very good point. Very good point. So we should definitely turn it down on 2.4 at least. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So what I did is I turned off, or I put the 2.4 gig radios to 5 milliwatts instead of 25, and things improved greatly. But anyway, how much time? 5 minutes? All right. Come again? Yeah, I did. I selected all the 2.4 gig radios. No. To these 100 APs, no. On 3 floors? No. Good catch though. So there's a quick select mechanism here that allows you to select based on different criteria, like per channel, per band, per SSID, stuff like that. And then we can say, yeah, let's just edit all of those radios based on our liking. So change antennas, change channels, what have you. Yeah, I mean, for a house, it would be good, or it would be sufficient not to be able to do that. All right, but that's the analysis part. we've taken more time here than expected, but it's all good. Got a lot of good questions, maybe one decent answer. So here's some survey data. So how we treat surveys is a bit different from the other products. So in our tool, what you do is you basically just make sure that these guys here are more or less white or green. Now I have no Wi-Fi association on my active survey adapter, but other than that, the passive survey adapters, which there are 3, are scanning quite nicely. One is scanning 2.4 all the time, one is scanning the lower channels of 5, and the one is scanning the upper channels of 5. And then you can go and see how they're doing, which channels they're scanning, edit the channel configuration per adapter, stuff like that. So the multi-adapter just enables you to not have to worry about your walking speed. You can basically run throughout the site. Go see the videos on YouTube where I crash during my running survey, or don't, whatever. So as long as you don't see orange or red here, you're good to go. You just start surveying, left click to add points. Touchscreen support is there, as well as, of course, the normal one. And then once you're done with the surveys, you just right click to end, and then left click to continue again. There's no concept of merging surveys, nothing like that. So every survey will be used by default for your project. So we take in all the data and always calculate that against everything. So we show everything unless you deliberately or on purpose uncheck some stuff from the surveys list. Sorry?
You have to stop the survey and start it later to do the same survey?
You don't need to. You don't need to. Those are separate surveys, but it's just an entry in the surveys list. So you don't need to worry about it unless you need to, disable some data from there. You can start unchecking.
But in a stadium, if I have like 4 crews doing surveys, for example.
Yeah, you can merge after. Yeah, the guys can do simultaneously different sides of the stadium, and then you can merge, or different floors in a building you can merge. Actually, the within map merge is 7.0, so it came out like only a week ago. We were late with that feature, but it's there now. I would say we are interpolating the data. Yeah, if you click at the end of the hallway or beginning at the end, yeah, we interpolate the readings along that route.
Are you putting walls on the actual drawings?
The walls?
I've had some issues where data was behind elevator banks, and it would show an extremely strong signal there where there wasn't any signal.
Let's look at that file and I'll fix it for you.
I don't have the file anymore.
All right, yeah, but it might have been broken. Ain't perfect today, but let's see it on a case-by-case basis.
Is it possible to, if that, let's say that floor plan is much bigger, and I spend 30 minutes doing a single survey, without ending it.
Yeah.
And then what I do is, I'll do a verification survey, and I'll bring on 3 computer transmitted powers, and then I want to be able to redo just that section. So I want to, probably when I merge another software, it gets the old reading basically, and now I've got a new transmitted power. So I just want to delete that small part of the board.
Yeah, you can edit and delete the individual survey points. So I would just, delete those points where you wanna do the new one and do new surveys on it. And
You select a certain part of it.
yeah, or certain points. Yeah, I think you need to do it one point at a time. But yeah, you can move them, delete them, and then add more data and quite flexibly select what you want to use and what not. And actually, when you delete a point at the middle of the survey, it kind of cuts that survey actually into 2 parts, so you can then edit those 2 parts separately. All right, 0 minutes. Thanks, Keith. By the way, Keith did promise, I heard you say next conference in Hawaii, next winter, was that?
If everyone's survey answer says Hawaii, we'll go to Hawaii.
How's that, guys? I challenge you. Hawaii, Hawaii, Hawaii. Thanks, Keith. Thanks, guys.